Hi, everybody. Welcome to Beyond the Backcast, where I, Adam Upper, talk with Braydon Kenny about Batman, the animated series. And this week's episode is our first episode with Hugo Strange with the strange. Fuck, what is this? What is this one called again? Shit.
The
What is it?
strange
The
secret of
Strange Secret of Bruce Wayne. There we go. How you doing today, sir?
I'm very disappointed because I was told this was going to be a Batman meets Doctor Strange episode, and yeah, you can understand why my expectations were let down.
Yeah. So no Marvel Sparkle circle in this movie. Yeah, it's like I guess the lamer Doctor Strange, I guess, with Hugo Strange.
Yeah.
But like one of Batman's like earlier villains though, because yeah, he first showed up in Detective 35, but you know, if anyone's not super down with Batman comic lore, like the first Batman's first appearance is Detective 27. So yeah, so it's like that. Like, so unless I don't even know if like every detective book after 27 was a Batman book, because even if it was, this would have been like the 10th, Batman book that came out. But
Yeah,
I
what
guess I should
whether whatever like titles were in the Detective Comics? Like,
I honestly I couldn't even tell you what it was before like Batman came out, and it just ended up becoming a Batman book. So I
kind of
think that's
ironic considering Detective Comics is what DC stands for, and it's
yeah.
mostly pushing Batman.
So yeah, so I was just like thinking, I was thinking that earlier, like I didn't look it up. Like, that's definitely a question for the doctor on the Doctor DC podcast is what was the deal with Detective Comics before Batman and pre-Batman and post-Batman, I guess, before it's pre issue 27 and post issue 27. So actually I may message him later just to see, because I'm curious and I don't feel like looking it up. But yeah, this is the strange secret of Bruce Wayne. Is the 37th fuck, I can't even talk today. Is 37th, I was gonna say issue, but it's a episode, and it was like the 29th episode to air, making it having it air on October 29th, 1992. So like almost on Halloween. And I was just thinking as I was writing this out, I think last episode, I think I wrote down 1991 by accident and said 1991, and like I think I caught myself, but said it anyway because like I wrote it down, but like I said 1991 last week, and I think that was a year off. I guess I'll find out in a week or two when I'm editing
I'm not the math
it.
expert here by any stretch of the imagination.
But yeah, so the story of this episode is by David Wise, and the teleplay is by Judith and Garfield Reeves Stevens. So I'm guessing they're a couple. I'm guessing that doesn't like Mondays and like some
Uh,
lasagna.
I get it. And I was like, wait, what? Yeah, now I get it.
So I think this is I think I may have like I think this I recognize the Garfield name. So I think this might be the second episode these people might have written. I
Might
think
be.
that's come
They
up. I
definitely
think
seem like newer names. We've probably heard
yeah,
them before though.
I think in this kind they've come up at least once before. I think, and then it's directed by Frank Power or however you want to say it. Like, so his yeah, he's definitely directed episodes before, so he's definitely a recurring director for at least the first season of Batman.
He got his name off a hairdryer.
No, it's Matt. Yeah, it was like that. Yeah, Max's son or brother.
It's somewhere between minimal and max. Frank.
So yeah, so this episode starts off like at like a bridge or whatever, and then then you see like the judge hesitantly like walk out on it. I think it was, and then like, which did it show her carrying the briefcase then, or do we say the briefcase afterwards?
It's a
Do
good
you
point.
remember?
Yeah, I can't remember if the briefcase just randomly appeared. I mean, I think for the most part, we just kind of saw her shot like kind of above the waist. So she could have been carrying a briefcase for that time being. But yeah, Batman's kind of tucked up in the upper part of the bridge watching what's going down. And that's when these two thugs in a car show up. to lay down basically a blackmail deal.
So yeah, so that way, what do you think the what the blackmail was before you find out what it was?
I
Yeah.
was gonna ask you that. I mean, I've got theories. I mean, this is a judge that's being blackmailed, so I don't know. When has a judge ever done something morally wrong in the judicial system? You know
Yeah, I
what? I
was
was
gonna
actually
say yeah.
looking up like scandals of judges. This is a true case. Did you know that there was a judge who sentenced a guy to jail for not paying a $200 littering fine? $200, and you jailed this guy.
Well, it probably wasn't like federal jail, so but yeah, if you don't pay a fine, you don't pay a fine. So, but
I
yeah,
guess, but like
but
for
yeah, I
littering?
guess what, but yeah, if I yeah, I guess if you're not paying a fine, I guess whatever it was for, it doesn't is like negligible, I guess, or it doesn't really matter. So, but yeah, that would suck to be like, hey, what are you in for? Like, murder, racketeering, and like, hey, I didn't pay a fine.
Maybe
But
this
again,
is like
that's the
the
saddest
police
part.
state that was in the Dark Knight Rises, where they just like abused government authority to the point where like nobody was able to do like anything that wasn't like strictly enforced by the cops. You ever listen to Legal Eagle?
No, I don't know what that is.
He's this YouTube guy who talks about like, like the law and stuff like that, and like we go through a lot of like pop culture kind of cases and stuff. I want to talk to this guy sometime and ask him. I don't know what his opinion is on state law and like how it's, like process and stuff, but I want to know how would something like the Dent Act in the third Dark Knight movie, how would that get passed? And like what would be the public response to it? Because like they act like all it took was one district attorney's death for Gotham City to basically throw the Constitution out to the wind. Like,
Well, I think it was probably also like the lead up to that, like starting with like the first movie of Thrash Girl fucking trying to blow up the city with the water supply, and then leading up to that. So it was probably so like imagine like the Harvey dying was probably like the last straw. So this that tip to public opinion to that sort of thing, instead of just being like if nothing else happened except for Harvey's death, probably that it probably wouldn't have happened. But it's like like what like what was like the time frame between like Batman Begins and like Dark Knight Rises, like five
oh,
like
easily
five
9 years.
like yeah yeah at most like 10 years.
Mhm.
So like yeah, Bruce Wayne finally comes back that you thought missing or dead or whatever. Fucking the water supply almost blows up, and then right away, that's like when we first, hear about the Joker, and he's already, yeah, Joker's already started because he's already leaving like the cards and stuff. He's like, hey, check this out, and then, yeah, then we're already into the Joker stuff, like into the, Dark Knight. And
Mhm.
then, Bane shows up in the third movie. So like all that shit within 10 years, and then like probably all the other shit, like, Scarecrow's like doing his fear toxin stuff like throughout there. So I guess like you gotta assume like Penguin's probably out there somewhere too, but we just didn't see him in there sort of thing. And then yeah, then all the mobsters are still doing their thing. Like yeah, you don't always forget like the good thing about Batman the animated series, that it shows off like the mobsters and stuff doing their stuff as well as the supervillains. So like I imagine they're doing their mob shit too. So and it's taking a toll on the city as well as all the supervillain shenanigans. So yeah, the mobsters come up and demand money, and they start counting it, and they say that she's like 20 grand short, and she's like, hey, I don't have the money. I'm like, I thought judge judges on TV are always rich, so how could she not have like actually
And I was
20
thinking, I'm
grand?
like, you're a judge. Like,
Yeah. Yeah, because like the first instance of a rich judge, like I thought was like on Fresh Prince, like Uncle Phil, like like he's like super rich judge, but I never
and didn't
understood
Uncle
like
Phil start out as a lawyer? So like he had a
yeah.
mansion from the start and a butler.
Well, but at the time of the show he was already judged though, right? I thought.
Oh, maybe. I
I
thought he
thought
was a judge halfway through the series or something, but
I
yeah.
I think he was judge all the way through. I think, or uh, or is that what he was going for when Will fucked up his the tape or whatever? And he was
That's a
like,
good question.
Philip Banks, Philip Banks, Philip, and he's like, Will, what the fuck did you do? And he fucking it. And I thought he like embarrassed him, or whatever. So
Yeah.
yeah, so maybe you are right. It's been a while since I saw that show.
You
I
know
have
what
to
we're
get
gonna have
that
to
in
do after
order.
we finish this podcast? Fresh Prince rewatch. You and I are gonna have to learn how to grow flat tops.
It's not. We didn't say kid and play. We also have to get that shirt that Jazz wears that every time like he gets like thrown out the front door, so he can like, oh, it's that episode he's gonna have at some point he's gonna get he's gonna get like Uncle Phil pissed off at him and be like, ah. Because he's like, yeah, you have like one shot to get this inside the front door, and then we won't allow you to fucking shoot anymore. So
You
just
know
make
what I
sure you keep that
realized?
shirt.
Tying this back to Batman, the 90s was the era of sassy butlers. We had Jeffrey, we had Alfred, we had Cadbury from Richie Rich. Like, man, that's the dream life. I mean, yeah, you're like basically like a indentured servant, but at the same time, you are just like rubbing it in of like how overprivileged your boss is. But yeah, that's when Judge Vargas gets saved by Batman and he drops in. I love, by the way, how like Batman doesn't have to do much. He just like casually steps back and this one guy who's got this briefcase like swings it and hits the other guy like right in the face.
And then in the tussle, the tape ends up going getting tossed over the side and on a girder. So like in the fight with Batman and the thugs, the Judge Vargas tries to do something that do the stupid friggin' person thing to do is try and go on the girder and grab her herself because she does. It looks to be a tape, so it's
Yeah,
like
like a
whatever's on the
casual wind
tape.
is gonna blow this thing into the river. Like,
Yeah, yeah. Then if it's like any other river that's going through a major city is going to eat the tape like instantaneously almost. So so just let it go in the fucking water and it's gone instead of trying to
yeah.
fucking kill yourself and go on the ledge. So as soon as she grab like Batman take care of the thugs, they take off and then like she grabs the thing, then it starts to teeter totter and she's like, oh no, and then she like faints and like falls over the edge. I think Batman swings down and gets her, I think.
Yeah, she
Yeah.
like casually hits her head on the metal beam,
Oh,
but
oh, she hits her. Okay, I
clearly
didn't
that
even
was
think.
a bigger impact than we thought because I think that they said that she's been out for days.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, like, or
Like,
is that just also from the okay? Oh yeah, it just was the thunk. Yeah, she didn't hit the water, or did she
yeah,
hit the
like I
water?
don't know, man. Like she must have some serious brain damage from that. Yeah, that's when the ambulance arrives to take her in, and Gordon's there. Apparently, he's a friend of Vargas's as well, and he's like, she's one of the most honest judges I've ever known. So like, it clearly can't be blackmail. And she seemed fine when I talked to her a week ago over dinner. Like she had just gotten back from vacation, and
Yeah, that she had the relaxation resort at Yucco Springs Health Resort, which yeah, which is a weirdly named. If you want to like
it sounds like a
Yucco
Muppet
Spring.
name. Like,
Yeah. No, it sounds like one of one of the fourth like rejected Animaniacs brother.
yeah,
Yeah, it's Yakko and Yucko. Like, okay, only one of you's got the Y name, so get out of here, Yucko.
yeah, yeah. You're the one that we keep inside the water tower, and you're never let out. Yeah, so that's when Batman jumps into the Batwing and Robin
because he said
appears in this.
because he says that's like that resort is like one of the Daggett Industries subsidiary or whatever. So he's like, hmm. So so he jumps in the Batwing with Robin.
Okay, the whole connection to Daggett thing, because I remember catching that the first time I watched this, and then when I watched it again, I'm like, but that's totally irrelevant to this episode. Like, if they
Yeah,
had
yeah,
cut
so
that
yeah,
line,
because because it doesn't show that what's his face is working. He is Strange is working for like Daggett or anything, or is just you gotta assume that whoever Daggett hires is probably not on the level. I guess.
Yeah. Like it's basically is Batman just going on because he's got a hate boner for
Uh,
Daggett.
No, or for like to get hired at Daggett Industries, you have to be this, yeah, at least this evil
Yeah.
to get hired here. We only accept people with all bad references.
Yeah, we give you a psych evaluation, and when you fail, you're immediately hired.
All right, hire this guy. Yeah, find out which one of our things like needs some like crazy potato shaped head shaped villain. Like all the poorly named the poorly named resort that has like the makings for like an evil layer. Okay, yeah, send them there. Sure, why not?
Yeah. Yeah, your punishment is that you get to like work out of a tropical resort. You must be a
Oh,
white doctor.
or like a bad version of like the Doctor No like secret lair.
Yeah. So that's when Bruce or sorry, Batman jumps into the Batwing and says to Robin, like, do I look stressed to you? And Robin's just like, what do I say to that? And he's like, of course, yeah, of course I look stressed. I should go on a vacation. And so
Yeah, because yeah, he seemed a little too like upbeat to be like going out to the spa, like finding out the spot. He's like, I look stressed, don't I, Robin? He's like, yeah, I guess. It's the only time I've seen him like that. One of the
when
few
have you
times I've seen
not
him
been
that.
stressed?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, but it's like one of the few times I've seen him like that upbeat.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's when Bruce arranges with Alfred to have both of them go to the Yucca Springs to investigate what was going on there. And yeah, he mentions that he's gonna talk to the Doctor Strange. By the way, it's an important note because obviously there's the correlation between the Marvel Doctor Strange. I don't know when the first appearance of Stephen Strange is in Marvel Comics, but based on what you had said, it sounds like Hugo Strange definitely appeared first.
Yeah, most
So
likely. Because like the first Marvel stuff wasn't until like the 60s, I think, right?
yeah, because I remember after this episode, maybe Marvel like called them up and said you can't call him Doctor Strange, but henceforth he keeps on being referred to as only Hugo Strange or Professor Strange.
Yeah, so the first appearance of Stephen Strange is Strange Tales number issue 110, so it'd be like July 1963.
Okay,
So
so
yeah,
yeah, definitely afterwards.
so 23 years after Hugo came out, yeah. So but as I said, like I would how even if Marvel was earlier, I would have suspected that this Doctor Strange would have been the first one, yeah, because I said it's like the you know 10 issues after Batman first came uh, first appeared. So
Yeah, the Batman comics have kind of painted themselves into a corner with the whole Hugo Strange thing because they keep referring him to as like a professor, but like he doesn't do what a professor does. He's clearly like a psychological doctor. But yeah, so that's when Bruce says, I'm going to go to my first appointment with Hugo Strange and get to the bottom of this. And okay, so we get our first introduction to Hugo Strange. I referred to him as looking like George Costanza, but having like the voice of Bela Lugosi. Like, pull the string. Like they're kind of Transylvanian. Just imagine this guy like electrocuting like people's minds and just going Serenity now, Serenity now.
and
Yeah,
a
what did you think of Hugo?
very poorly shaped head too, as I made a reference to earlier.
Yeah, I texted Adam as we were watching this. I'm like, Hugo Strange has a potato shaped.
Yeah, yeah, and like weird like Van Dyke goatee going on.
Yeah, no Hugo Strange mutton chops, which is like one of the signature parts of his looks. Like
Yeah,
they include what I call the Ozzy Osbourne or John Lennon glasses.
yeah.
But yeah,
But yeah, so
so Hugo has invented this machine, which is like okay, this is what I'm confused about because we don't see him walk Bruce into the room. Like when we cut to the scene, it's just Bruce just lying there on the table with these like kind of probe looking things like pointed at him, and Hugo's looking at a computer screen, like a back computer sized computer screen. So if you've ever been to like, you know, like any psychological person, like even like a therapist or even like physio, any like medicinal kind of practice, you usually have to sign a waiver, right? So like, wouldn't Bruce Wayne have had to sign something? Like, I know obviously like this guy's a
Yeah,
bad guy.
or that's probably already like taken care of before they got in there, right? So that's probably like one of the things that's assumed, and he's probably
Yeah.
already kind of told them what, like, just when you walk in here, it's a big old machine to do this thing that we're going to do, and to do the thing that happened in Batman Forever.
Yeah, he's doing what the
what
Riddler does, basically. Like,
yeah, basically, yeah, instead of doing like the VR the VR TV thing at home, it's just basically like, yeah, stealing people's secrets and
so Bruce Wayne just walked into this, like, it's not even, I guess he called it a lab, and just went onto this like metal slab and just went like, okay, this is totally normal. Like,
yeah,
obviously he's
yeah,
doing it to kind of figure out what's going on here, but like,
yeah,
you'd be
yeah,
thinking,
yeah.
wait a second, what are we
And then
signing
yeah,
up for?
yeah, then Strange like says that what the machine does, and it's basically like what, like, I guess the same thing that how they explain like true serum in movies works, or they just breaks down your like barriers that you put up so you can figure out your true self, sort of thing. And same thing with like the true serum, it just it stops you from telling a lie, and just breaks that whole thing down, sort of thing. So Ria starts talking to him. He's like, "Hey, maybe there's a traumatic thing in your childhood that happens," which anybody who
I
knows
have no
anything about
idea what you're
Batman.
talking about.
No, of course not. Nothing happened in Bruce Wayne's childhood that would be traumatic him at all.
Well, even Bruce is like, the tragedy of my parents is very well known. Like I don't know how far away they
Yeah,
are from
yeah,
Gotham,
yeah,
but
yeah.
like,
I think he says that. Like, what did he say that right away, or is it or is it like well into it? Like, yeah, but that comes up at some point. Yeah, so like
yeah,
obviously,
early on in the conversation.
yeah, anybody knows anything about yeah, Gotham City's history would know that that was a thing that happened. Yeah, so obviously, yeah, that yeah, he gets through that dude. That he saw his parents get shot, and he secretly blames himself. And then he's like pushing, like, oh, do you hear the jet right now? Like in Toronto, like giving away when we're recording
No, I
this, and
don't.
it's the CNE is going on in Toronto, and it's like Labor Day weekend, and the Jets they're doing like their I'm not sure if it's practice or for the actual air show. So if anybody hears the Jets going on, that's what's going on.
The
It was
invasion has
interesting.
begun.
Yeah, it was funny. Like the first time I lived downtown, like when I moved down in like beginning of like 2016 or 2017. I had the day off like over Labor Day over this weekend, and and had no idea what was going on. I lived on like the top floor, like the 11th floor of an apartment building. And like I had Bathurst and Adelaide. Playing GTA 5 and all this years, a bunch of the jet flying by. I'm like, oh, what the fuck's going on?
The cops
The,
found
the,
me.
yeah. Then it took me a minute to figure out what was going on. Yeah, so like I just always remember now that like Labor Day weekend, I hear jets going on. It's nothing crazy going on because the only other time I hear like any sort of aircraft is like the police or ambulance, helicopter every so often, which is not very often. So
It's better than the gunshots outside your apartment a couple of months ago.
it was only the once, but yeah, but
Yeah.
hearing jets is much better thing to hear outside your door than for being like, is that gunshots and actually being true.
Yeah. Next time you gotta take out a microphone so that we can get some Gotham City street ambiance. Yeah,
So
so
yeah,
that's when
so yeah,
Hugo's like pushing with
pushing
the
him. He's like, yeah, it's like what he wanted to do. He's like, oh, I wanted revenge, and then he kind of shows in his mind that he's Batman and whatnot. And he's like, and then I think with that, he kind of Bruce kind of breaks himself out of the little trance or whatever the fuck that the machine's doing. So, but Hugo Strange is like, oh, I already figured out that you're Batman. So he's like, oh, and Bruce is like, hey, I'm done with this, so I'm leaving.
yeah,
So then
so
he's
one thing that like Hugo Strange is famous for in the comics, at least you and I being Batman fans, we know is like Hugo was smart enough on his own to figure out that Bruce Wayne was Batman because he's been kind of studying him psychologically from afar. But a big reason for that is because he is so obsessed with Batman because he wants to be Batman to the point where I'm not even kidding. Hugo Strange has a bat suit in his closet that he will sometimes like wear. Like, you know
Yeah,
that
because
scene in the deleted scene in Spider-Man 2 where like Jonah Jameson gets Spider-Man's costume and is like jumping around. Like that's more or less what Hugo Strange is doing in his office.
that's funny.
Yep.
But yeah, so I think like it's basically at that point, like you forget shit, what happens after that? Let's see.
Well, he calls up Joker. Even he
Oh
says
yeah.
like it was really hard to find your number. I'm very
Uh,
curious how he got the
oh yeah,
Joker's number.
yeah. We cut to like the I guess like the basically like what the old music part. Yeah, and you hear the phone ring, and then like the answer machine picks up, and then Joker leaves a message, and he's like leave a message at the scream or the groan or something like that. And like as
Yeah.
he has literally you hear another voice, and you imagine it's probably as him torturing somebody else, and had somebody there like waiting for him to just be like, all right, talk now, motherfucker. And I actually
Yeah, he's
talking
probably
about it,
like
so they start.
carving this guy up like the repo man.
So yeah, so yeah,
Look, it's your spleen.
then as you said, yeah, like Strange leaves a message like being like, hey, like I've I've came across something you may like, so come out with some money, sort of thing. And then I think that's when we cut to like the plane landing, and it's like the Joker, Two Face, and Penguin getting out of the plane. Like
Yeah, so
I
I
think
think
we
this is our first like I mean, it's not yet, but it will be a villain team up episode.
Yeah, so I was just wondering, like, I wonder how that plane ride went because
Oh my
do you think
gosh.
because do you think they already know that they're bidding on Batman's secret identity, or is it just or do you just say like, hey, I have something you may like, because
Yeah.
obviously if you're trying to get like like the top three villains, I guess, of Gotham, I guess is what they're going with here is, and that's why the three of them are there, because the Riddler, because you would think the Riddler would have been there too, but I guess he only wanted like three, so yeah, so I guess yeah, so we
Yeah.
gotta go with
Well, we haven't
those.
gotten to the Riddler yet, at least not in terms of like the production order. But yeah, that is interesting. Yeah, I never thought of that. Like what did he say to kind of bait them into
Yeah,
going?
because
Because
if they already know, then I guess it would be a lot smoother. Because if you just said like, "Hey, come out with money," like I got something, they'd be like, all of them be probably a little bit apprehensive and like on edge, a little bit more on edge, kind of be like, "Hey, why the fuck are we placating this guy and going out and getting flown out to wherever the spy is?" Because you would think that spy would be probably close enough to Gotham for them to go to, but like they came in on plane.
yeah, close enough to
So
Gotham and yet far enough you need a plane to get there. So
or if a plane would be feasible enough to get you there faster, because if it's close, like taking a plane would be like actually counterproductive depending on how close it is, right?
yeah.
Because if
So,
it's like if it's like 5 miles away, yeah, you're gonna waste more time, getting the
and
plane
jet fuel.
ready, and taking off and then trying to land like 5 miles away than if it was like 15, 20 miles. But I don't know, I guess we're thinking too much about a fucking like child's cartoon. Now I'm
Well,
thinking about it.
the thing that went to my mind was because you were saying like they'd be kind of tense. Like I think Penguin and Two Face would be tense to be in a plane with stuck with the Joker. It's like,
Yeah,
are we
yeah,
actually going to land?
yeah, like yeah, that in itself, and then just like the three of them, like yeah, this that being like the top three villains. So I guess they all like had like trying to do like the same thing every so often, or trying to go for the same thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, that would be tense, and then like so then trying to figure out why they're all going in,
But what's funny
who the
is
fuck
like
is they?
Hugo Strange's
So,
henchman shows up with like one of those signs that says Joker, Two-Face, Penguin. So like, like when you're picking somebody up from the airport and trying to call them out, like if I'm in that airport, I mean, even if I'm not a Gotham City resident, I've probably heard enough of like the big stuff going on in Gotham that I know those names. I'm like, yeah, I'm going to a different airline.
but I don't even think they landed at an airport. It just kind of looked like
Yeah, it's just a
the
runway.
or like the like the desert flats or whatever sort of thing or whatever. And so, and if that's the case, like I imagine they Strange chartered that plane just for the three of them, knowing that just the three of them are on the plane. So so unless it was just to placate the three of them, like they like having the sign was kind of almost counterproductive too, because you would have had to go
Yeah,
in
nobody else
Ted.
is showing up. Like,
Yeah, because you would have had to go in because no one has like spare like cardboard paper just to write to like, right to like that like
also, if you can't
airport
figure
planes
out who the
signs.
Joker, Penguin, and Two-Face are, like, I think they stand out in a crowd.
Hmm. I wonder who the three people of the three people on this plane are going to be the three people I'm looking for.
That just hit me. That's funny.
So unless like one of them took over the plane and like the pilots like joined like took over like the like say the Joker's flying plane and like and the pilots took over the Joker's place. Like it was
Hugo
like
must have
okay,
some
I
really
know
dumb goons.
like I know who you and you are, but who the fuck you? I'm fairly certain you're not the Joker. I've seen him on the news at least once before, and it's not you.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's when they go in the car and oh well, there's this really good line where like Joker has a briefcase and the henchman's like, "What's in here?" And I liked Mark Hamill's delivery here. Why, it's just what the doctor ordered, and it turns out it's money because later on he like drops the briefcase and he's like, "You shouldn't do that. You could lose your tip, not to mention your head."
As that's happening, like the buddy's like having trouble lifting those suitcases because they're all filled with money, and it's still assumed that Bruce is still in his like appointment with Hugo Strange. So like Alfred is kind of looking around, checking out the outside, and he sees like car pull up and sees the three of them get out of the car. And then then as he's like kind of peering around the corner, he sees the one guy drop the suitcase full of money, and I think it's about that when you see that Hugo Strange like is outside with him behind Alfred with his goons. And you would have thought that like Batman would have gotten like some Alfred some sort of like basic training, so he would have been able to hear a doctor and his two fucking big ass goons walking up behind him.
Well, even like
Because
Alfred is one of the few
I think
members
they
of the
surprised.
Bat family allowed to have a gun. Like on Batman's conditions. Like
Yeah,
you'd think he'd be carrying a piece. Like, oh, I think I'm going with you. Yeah, not so fast, pal.
yeah, because I think they came up behind him a little too easily. I thought,
Yeah,
yeah,
does this smell like
yeah,
chloroform?
yeah, basically, yeah. So, yeah,
Yeah, so he takes Alfred aside, and meanwhile, Bruce is snuck into the laboratory where he had his therapy session, and he sees the tape of Maria Vargas, like labeled with her name. And it turns out that Hugo's been blackmailing her because we should have mentioned back in the therapy session, Bruce was turned away from the screen while it was happening. He didn't know that Hugo had like discovered his identity. So that's why like nobody who's had these therapy sessions done to them knows what Hugo's discovered until it's too late. So it turns out that Judge Vargas was the OG fire starter. Yeah, she
seems
apparently was like she kind of looked like Angelica from Rugrats. She
yeah.
like was playing
or
with a
like
book of
or like the idea of Drew Barrymore from Firestarter.
yeah, yeah, actually, yeah, kind of did look like yeah.
It
I'm
was
not
doing the
special, I'm a monster.
doing the thing as like a lot of kids probably done, probably what we at least I know I've done before, like playing with matches when you probably shouldn't have been, and accidentally set off like an old warehouse, and it was like which set off the old dock fire from like 30 years prior.
Yeah. She's like, it was an accident, it was an accident. And Hugo's like, oh, of course it was. Of course it was. Oh my gosh, I'm gonna get so rich off this chick.
So I think that she was like 5 years old. So like, yeah, so so I think that just goes to show that like that so it means like the judge was like 35. So like was looking pretty rough for 35. So don't be a judge, people. It adds years to you.
Well, especially in Gotham City. Oh my gosh.
Oh, that's right. That's probably why.
You know what I was thinking after I saw the flashback? Like, you know the Batman villain Firefly. Like,
Yeah.
if he winds up in her court, you think she's gonna give him a pardon? Like, it's gonna be pretty hypocritical if I throw the book at you right now. I don't know.
Or it's like I could probably like blame that on you and be like, hey, that was your first fire, and that's where you got your first bug forward.
Your
So
Honor, that happened 20 years before I was born.
like well, whoever said like Firefly was young, he could be in his mid 30s as well. It's never too late to become a supervillain.
Yeah. Hey, I heard something on a internet thing like about like Vlad Impaler didn't start until he was like in his 40s, so it's not too late for us millennials.
Oh, I'm coming up in my mid 40s, man. So I'm like late gen, the Gen
Yeah,
X or
your
whatever.
impaling years are still ahead of you. Yeah, so Bruce realizes this machine can like, read thoughts, which is how he and opens up his own tape that has his name on it to realize it's missing. So he
Yeah.
has a good idea about what that means.
So he pretty much should being the detective that he is. Yeah, he shows that he probably knows that and he's not going to try and blackmail him. He's going to try and sell that he's Batman to the highest bidder sort of thing. In
Yeah.
which we know that the Joker, Two Face, and Penguin are there, but of course like that's all happening outside as he's inside sort of thing. So we cut to, I think that's when we cut to like them in the auditorium or whatever, where he's like straight there. Shows the three of them in the seats or whatever. Joker's eating popcorn, and
Yeah, I
then
love that. He's
Hugo's
just like, yeah,
like
inhaling
where
popcorn.
the fuck did he get popcorn from?
Joker probably killed somebody for it.
Well, that's the thing though. If this is like a spa, I've never been to a spa, but I'm fairly certain they don't serve popcorn there. So so unless you like, I guess he probably must brought his own popcorn. I guess so, just in
He's
case
got
he's
like things of Jiffy Pop stuffed in his pockets. But yeah, so Hugo's gonna auction off, and he explains to them why they're here, because they're like, get to the point, like, why are we here? So he's like, I'm gonna auction off Batman's identity to you. Okay, so
and then with that he like holds up the tape and it shows that they're really close to where he is like on the stage, and he has like Bruce Wayne like on the front of the tape. So if any
I
of them
didn't even
has
think of that.
so if any of them has like half decent eyesight, they would have fucking saw they would have saw like that was a tape because he puts it
That's
up and with like
hilarious.
when he holds like its label out and it says Bruce Wayne on it. And then he
Oh,
said, then you see a wide shot. They're like in the first or second row, and they're like right fucking there.
well, I was gonna go with like Hugo's really relying on the honor system here because like you're dealing with the Joker. So like Joker could be like,
Well,
yeah, I didn't really bring
well,
real money. I'm just gonna beat the shit out of you until you tell me who Batman
yeah.
is.
Well, I was gonna say like yeah, all three of them like are like well known like supervillains, and Hugo Strange doesn't have any of his thugs there. It's just him and the three of them. So they could have just bum across the stage and be like, "Hey, give us that whatever the fuck this is," and
Yeah.
let's take the fuck out.
Like
So yeah,
realistically, the best chances he has is with Two-Face, and those best chances are literally 50-50.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Uh,
because most likely like the Penguin has like the gun umbrella with him, so he could probably shoot him. Then the Joker, you can't predict what the fuck he's gonna do. So so you're fucking most, but you gotta pretty much assume whatever you do with him, you're most likely fucked either way. You're just a
You'd
matter
think for
of
a
when.
psychologist, like he would know not to like aggravate serial killers or try and bend them to your will. Like,
Yeah, but
yeah,
guys like that, you always know that they always think they're smarter than everybody, so they can control the situation.
yeah. And so did Harley
So,
Quinn, and look what happened to her.
so
So that's when we have a brief cut back to Bruce in the lab. Okay, so I get what he's doing here, and it is a clever plan
yeah,
because actually I think this was happening before because that's when like Hugo already has the tape that Bruce Wayne as like, replaced with the original, because Bruce gets on the slab and turns the machine on and has the probes like, stick into his head.
You just kind of see him getting in, and then it just kind of cuts away, whatever
But
sort of thing. So
Bruce
you're
has
like,
to be really counting on he understands how this machine works. Otherwise, what are the odds that he's going to turn into a vegetable? Like, this thing is messing with your thoughts, man. Like, he could be walking away with like his brain matter like pouring out the side of his ear.
yeah, it wasn't like exactly like the thing in Batman Returns because because they was kind of like sucking your brain cells away, sort of thing. More,
Yeah,
it's more like it seemed like more of a sucking the brain cells out, sort of thing, more than this did instead of just reading it. So, yeah, so I wouldn't suspect this thing was like that intrusive instead of just reading instead of extracting, sort of thing. So.
true.
So I definitely would have thought that with this device at least, yeah.
And that's
So
when
yeah, so
Hugo kidnaps Bruce.
yeah, or like no, that's when they while they're doing you see them bidding on the thing, and then I think in the white shot you see Batman like up in the rafters, and he switches the tape, and like and then I didn't get why they decided to all pool the money together to do it instead of just them each opening each other. Like I didn't get why, because the Joker's like, screw this, let's just bid on together, and they just said okay. Like no, I didn't get why they decided to do it that way or whatever. So they pooled the money together and ended up being like what, like $50 million or something like that. So like he's like, okay, here's the tape, and puts it in, and that's where you see Batman kind of have like a kind of play it has like a VCR up there, and kids like, yeah, VCR is what we used to what I used to have to deal with all the time. And it's like where like stuff was on tape before DVDs and CDs came out. Yeah, this is even
Yeah.
before CD. I think, yeah, 1982 is when CDs were just really starting to become popular.
Dude, there's going to be a generation pretty soon that doesn't even know what DVDs are.
Yeah, I think we're probably closer to that now
Yeah.
than we want to care to admit, really. But
What's
yeah,
that
so
on the horizon? Oh yeah, it's my midlife crisis.
but yeah, so you plays a tape instead of showing like that Batman, like the Bruce Wayne thing where he shows him as a kid and then showing that he was Batman, it kind of shows that that message of like Hugo Strange going like, hey, I can doing the whole rubbing villain rubbing his hands together, like being like basically, yeah, I can fool these guys and just think of anything and make them think whoever I want to as Batman and get all their money and screw them over for that. Ha ha ha. So they
Which
like
is a
so the
pretty good idea, like for Batman thinking quick on his feet. Because essentially
yeah,
he could play the real tape now and be like, well, this is totally irrelevant. Like,
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
yeah, so of course that pisses off the villains. Like they actually shoot the tape out of his hands. And I love the Joker's line. It's like, I'm gonna use your head for a bowling ball, Strange. It's gonna be an awkward bowling ball, but
Yeah, so yeah, it's like he like manages to get away, but they catch up with him at the airport or wherever the planes are, and they catch up with him, and then he says like, no, like that was fake, and like, no, seriously, Bruce Wayne is Batman, and that's where Two-Face says like, hey, I know Bruce Wayne, that's that's just ridiculous. And he's
yeah,
like,
he's
yeah,
like,
he's like, if he's Batman, I'm like the King of England, I think, or something.
I'd arguably a more better looking and more better person than the current King of England. Oh yes, I went there. Hey, say what you will about Harvey Dent. He didn't cheat on his wife.
We never know. He could have. We don't want much about his Harvey's backstory.
True enough. So that's when Batman is climbing on board the plane as they're like basically not believing Strange, and they say, like it's getting a little hot in here. What do you think we give Hugo some air? And they're gonna chuck him out of the plane, and Batman cuts the fuel lines of the plane. Like he is pretty much relying on the belief that these guys know how to safely crash a plane without like, killing all these people on board. And so they grind it to a halt and land in the middle of the desert, and that's when Batman confronts them.
Yeah, and do they repeat that like he said that they think that or Hugo Strange said he thinks he's Bruce, or is that brought up again?
Well, he repeats it when the villains are getting taken away because he says it in front of Gordon, and that's when Bruce Wayne shows up, standing right next to Batman, and says, "As Batman called me to help out with this case because Maria Vargas is a friend of mine, and you're going away for a long time." So Hugo's, of course, like, "WTF? Like, what's going on here?" and gets hauled away. So, continuity note here, we're still a ways away before getting to Justice League Unlimited. Do you remember the Project Cadmus storyline?
Yeah, like that's where like the cloning where there was at the Superman Prime whatever storyline.
And Amanda Waller was in charge. So,
Uh,
when they have that little committee that's like kind of the anti-Justice League, Hugo Strange is briefly shown there. And the reason is because Amanda Waller knows who Bruce Wayne is. So at some point, either she reached out to him or he reached out to her and said, "I know Batman's secret identity." And that's why we get that scene of her saying, like, "I know who you are, rich boy." And like Batman's like, "What the crap?" Like, so
yeah,
as they're
so
cutting away, that's when we see who Bruce Wayne really is.
oh yeah, yeah, that shows how they take that like Mission Impossible movie style. He takes out the mask and he's like, "It's Robin." He's like, "Oh yeah, I'll do this anytime." But it just sucks that you're so tall because because he's leg braces hurt. Yeah, so because obviously Bruce is slightly taller than what Robin is.
Yeah. And that's when he's like, "I think it's time to go home, Alfred. I've had enough vacation to last a lifetime." Wah, wah.
Yeah, it's probably. I was gonna say like only Batman would like be working the entire time on his vacation, and this is probably the only time he's ever be a big like this close to taking a vacation. I think.
Yeah. Only Batman would be miserable on vacation. And it's not even a real vacation.
Yeah. So what did you give this episode out of five spas?
Out of five spas, I'm gonna give it a 3.5 out of 5.
Three and a half.
This is one of the episodes that definitely stood out to me in terms of like my childhood memories. I love a good villain team up episode. And it was a nice way of kind of introducing Hugo Strange. I don't think he appears again in the show, to my
Yeah,
knowledge, but
yeah. I think this might be the one time he shows up. Yeah, I think.
yeah, which I guess is kind of makes sense because it's kind of hard to do the whole shtick again when he already knows who Batman is.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I think it was a basic story, but it was kind of creative in the visuals. I love the animation scene of like looking inside Batman's mind. That was pretty cool. And yeah, I like it. How about you?
I say I think 3.5 as well. Yeah, like an average like villain of the week episode with Hugo, because yeah, I said like obviously like he's in like an early Batman villain, but yeah, there's really not much to him. He's just like smart, doesn't have like any like super powers or anything. So like don't think he could have done really anything much more than what the story already had, sort of thing. So, and I said I think this might be the only time he shows up because of that. So yeah, so just average episode, so 3.5 spas out of 5. Thank you for joining us this week in the Batcave to talk about Batman the Animated Series and the strange tale of Bruce Wayne. And next week's episode will be Heart of Steel parts 1 and 2, and we'll see. So we may or may not have a guest with that. We'll just wait back to hear from them. And with that, you can follow us on Twitter/X at Beyond Backcast, or on Instagram at Beyond the Backcast, and we are on YouTube now at youtube.com/ at Beyond the Backcast. You check us out there, rate, review, subscribe there, or wherever you find the podcast, where you're listening to it now. And where can we find you on the internet, Braydon?
You can find me on Instagram at Alfred is Zaddy, and you can also find us on our Discord. We have a link for that on the Beyond the Backcast Instagram link tree, and we also have a Facebook page, Beyond the Backcast.
All right, and you can follow me on Instagram at StumpJumpman. And as I said, thank you for joining us in the Batcave to talk about Batman the Animated Series. Join us next week to talk about more Batman. Thank you for joining us, good chums. Kapow.